Okay, everyone, I am in the gallery today with artist Noufaux. You can find everything on Instagram, and she'll tell you a little bit more about where you can find her throughout this episode. Work is amazing. Noufaux, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So hi everyone. I am based in the UK. I live in the southeast of England in Kent, and a lot of my work is basically inspired by a very iconic Art Nouveau artist known as Alphonse Mucha. And it's gradually progressed into classic horror because the similarities of how a lot of classic horror started would have been just after like the Victorian period to the silent film. And then, of course, you have the classic horror with Universal monsters from the 1930s. And around that era, you've got a bit of things like Art Deco as well, which I do incorporate with some of my work also. I've been doing Noufaux as such since 2017. I did a photography degree, and basically, it all started around there through an advertising assignment, but it was all like bright colored and everything, nothing like what I do now.
Yeah.
And basically, I got a really high score for it, and even though it was like it was kind of like a love-hate relationship because doing digital collage and things like that on Photoshop is quite difficult and uh, can be really stressful as well. But once everything is all put together, it's very satisfying. And I just really like how everything turned out. And then when it came to me watching a film and then being a really big fan of Bela Lugosi, it pretty much all started from making one of those, and it's like gradually continues on there. I've actually got some of my designs next to me,
Oh,
which
yeah,
you might
show them. Oh,
recognise. Yeah.
and now that you're leaning over, I see Bella Lugosi behind you.
Yeah, so the image behind me is one of the main designs I've done, which actually comes with a lot of my orders I do. But yeah, this is my very first piece I did. Ooh. Oh no, the background is
Oh,
making
it's
it
not going to
fade.
show.
Oh, I thought it would. How odd. Hold on. There we go.
It's just competing a little bit. Wow. It's so iconic and beautiful. I love everything with his face on it because it's just the photographer in me and looking at black and white film, it's just like it makes me so happy to see the lighting in all of these older movies and beautiful. And I love your style with the art deco and the art nouveau. It's
Yeah, I'll
totally
see
my
if this
thing.
one. Yeah, there we go. If I do it at
Oh,
like an
beautiful.
angle. See, I like got the Invisible Man. I did like a whole series of what I like to call monster minis because they are like smaller
Yes.
than what I normally do.
I'll have to
And
include like a slideshow of your
yeah,
work.
could do that. Yeah, because oh, there we go. So
Oh,
I'm getting a hang of it.
yeah.
Yeah, so I did do Jekyll and Hyde together. So
Nice.
they come as like a set. But yeah, every like the frame that you see with all the curls, everything, I gotta literally draw that with like a touchpad. So a lot of people who do digital art, they have like these little like stylus pads, and
Mhm.
it's like with a pen, which tends to be a little bit easier to work on. Whereas I don't have that. I have to do it all on a laptop on my lap. I don't have like a fancy office or anything. And it's all done like through a touchpad. And sometimes my cat likes to get involved and sometimes things can go wrong. Um,
Trying to be your
but yeah,
assistant.
yeah, and it's just like a so steady process a lot of the time. And I've even have gone through other things like Vincent Price as well.
Nice. Nice. See, oh, that silver tone is just so gorgeous. So I know that you mentioned that you kind of got into the horror genre because of those 1930s characters who kind of just fit
Mm,
in with the aesthetic. But
yes.
you could have just as easily picked like flapper girls or goddesses or I don't know, anything. So why do you think
Well,
that
that's the
your
thing.
why did you get there?
So it's interesting you say that because I have experimented with you saying like flapper girl. I have
Mhm.
experimented with other like photos as well. So I do love vintage postcards
Yes.
from the 20s and 30s. And I have done, sorry, just grabbing them all for you. And basically, there is a photographer in particular called Jacques Bridara. I probably pronounced that wrong, but it's French. And basically, he did a lot of like kind of like romanticized kind of like postcards, but they were known as like risque postcards because
Yeah.
they were like banned in America. Like if they just showed like a stocking or something, that was considered like too sexual. But I do make other things which have that photo in the middle, but I just like
Wonderful.
modernize it in a way as well. This actually comes in like nice shiny paper. Um, they're also he does a little bit like I don't. This one does have a backside in it. Is that okay?
That is okay with me.
So he does things like oh dear, sorry, just trying to.
Oh, we only
There
see
we
the
go.
backside. There you
There we
go.
go. So he did like a lot
Nice.
of kind of like kinky vintage as well. And I swear he was like the only photographer that's done that. He also had a brother as well. So they were known as like the Badira Studio. But yeah, I could probably easily incorporate things like Flapper as well, because I'm always expanding and experimenting. I even had a lot of requests. People have asked me to do like Christopher Lee's Dracula, Tim Burton work, which I have started on. And I am actually in the middle of sorting out an exhibition that I've collaborated with a bunch of other artists, and it's all about mortal essence of life and death. And I've
Oh,
picked the subject of the seasons because that's all about beginning, change, death, and then I've put like silent actors. So I called them like the silent seasons. So they're not quite finished yet, but there's been like a few sneak peeks here and there.
oh, that is captivating already. That just sounds awesome. I did a lot of my work was about death and people really freaked out about it and I what can you do? But um I think as especially because I was in college, it was like that extreme between the young people who haven't experienced death yet, mostly, and then the older people in the class were like, "Oh, how dare you!" And so it's difficult, but your work is so beautiful that I think it kind of tricks people into being able to see your concept without being afraid at first.
Yes, I like
But
that. I'm glad. Yeah.
yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
I would put it like I would make a whole wallpaper scheme out of your work. It's gorgeous.
That's what I liked about because I have been to the main Booker Museum in Prague, and the way they display a lot of his work is like wallpaper because it's all originates from like Japan artwork back in like late 1800s. You know, you got the Great Wave and everything. That's
Yeah.
why Art Nouveau itself exists because a lot of European artists were inspired by the long scrolled type artwork, and that's why Mooker's was always like so long and thin, and that's when I've tried to like incorporate it like over 100 years later, but in a more modern twist. But I do like the fact that you said that they give you like kind of like some sort of comfort in a way, because for me, I do have chronic anxiety, and death is a subject for me which I've always had like kind of like some fear of, which I'm sure a lot of people do.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but sometimes for me, it's gone to the point of like pretty much like a panic attack. Like I just think I'm going to die, and I don't know why. The whole concept of fear of dying, the unknown, and things like that. But considering a lot of the artwork I do does contain dead people, it's also a way of like celebrating how those existed before.
Right, right. And then you've got the little bit of like the magical element in there. Like, yes, there's death, but Dracula will live forever.
Yes,
Or,
exactly.
there's the mythology and everything involved. So because you have that fear of death, for most people, you would say, well, if you have that fear, you probably would not delve into that area for your work. You're
Uh,
literally working on something for, I don't know, 48 hours of editing and designing,
yes,
if
days.
not longer, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've been there because we're in the same kind of area where you're, and I did that too, where like you said, before I had a good laptop, I was doing all of my editing on the little trackpad
Touch
on my
bar.
laptop.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not easy. So I can't believe the amazing work that you create with that. But what makes it possible for you to kind of be in that genre when it's so scary for you?
So it's also kind of like a fascination thing as well. So with like for me particular with Bela Lugosi, like because I've got a book recently, a brand new one called Becoming Dracula, but also a lot of things that I've read about him and the way he would quote around death makes it sound not so scary at the same time and makes it more comforting. I've always been a massive fan of the goth aesthetic as well. I think it's beautiful. Um, for me, I like to technically call myself like a lazy goth. I can't be bothered with the makeup or anything, as you can see, but I really do love things, especially around vampirism, the whole romanticism around how death can be beautiful at the same time.
Hmm.
And of course, well, for me personally, I've actually have been to quite a few funerals, and it's as sad as a funeral is, it's also like you're celebrating that person as well. So it's kind of like a really weird kind of like twist and turns, maybe a bit like a contradiction in a way. It's like, oh, I fear it, but I'm also fast. It's like curiosity in a way.
Yes.
But not only that, I'll tell you one thing I do, like when I have been to a funeral, of course, there's always like a graveyard nearby. I always like to have a walk around and look at the gravestones and see how beautiful some of them are.
Yes.
And for me, it's like, even though I don't even know who these people are, I feel like it's my way of just saying, hello, I'm here. There are people that, you know, want to see you too, even though I don't know you. And yeah, I don't know, it just sounds a bit weird, but it's just like a whole
No, it
curiosity
doesn't.
type thing. I also have a friend who is a mortician as well, and the way she's talked to me about like how she embalms people and sorting out things, it's like, oh, that sounds so interesting and borderline scientific in a way as well, which
Oh,
I'm also
definitely.
interested in. So it's like a really weird like pattern. Like there are moments where I'm like, I will wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die someday. Is this horrible? Is this horrible? But then
Yeah.
when I'm doing my artwork, I'm like, oh, there's like some comfort coming from somewhere.
And you're creating something that's going to last forever.
Exactly.
It's so funny that you brought up all of that about the cemeteries and so I love cemeteries. I go to a few um consistently just because I love being there and I'm not sure why, but I go and I've like videotaped all over on Instagram and everything, but um I grew up with my mom. My mom had a severe phobia of cemeteries. We
Oh
would
wow.
go and we would park, like she knew exactly where to park so that there would be a straight line to where we needed to go. She would put the flowers, say her prayer, and we were running back to the car. She could not be there. And she had constant nightmares about cemeteries. And for me, cemeteries are so peaceful and beautiful. And I think
Yeah.
exactly the same way you do. Like I want to be here and show respect, and I want everyone who's here to know that someone is here for them. So I actually have some big projects going on with that regard, and one of my upcoming episodes is going to be about grave designers and
Oh wow.
um, people who photograph cemeteries, explore cemeteries, bring back the history from a plaque that no one has looked at in years, that kind of thing. So it's just so funny that you brought that up out of nowhere, when that's exactly what I'm working on right now.
That's really cool. Yeah, I have a habit of that. Sometimes I'll be talking about something and then my brain will just like link it to something else, even if it's not even related to what I was originally talking about. But I don't know about you, but it's interesting to see, just like in a way of art, fashion, but like you said, like the cemeteries, like you can see a progression of how gravestones have changed and how people will lay things out. So, of course, back in like 1800 and something, most of the time you would have like a really big cross or an angel or something. And then further down the line now, like if you look at a lot of the essentially modern looking ones, it's normally like gold on black
Hmm.
headstone, or you've got like that little bit like what I call like a tray or like a type of trough thing at the front. I saw one with like, I think it was like purple gemstones or something, like really
Yeah.
shiny stones at the top, and it had like this white marble and everything. And I just thought to myself, wow, that looks really modern slash fashionable in a way. I thought
Yeah.
that's so quirky and unusual. And there's so many different things you can do now. It's like anything is possible. Like you could probably have like an Art Deco type statuette thing now, whereas
Oh, for
before,
sure.
yeah, it was like before you could. It was just like all very similar. Like they all looked the same in a way, because of course it's an expensive thing, and depending on
Yeah.
what people have, like
And if you don't
yeah.
buy your own, you have to hope that your family is stylish enough to suit you when you die.
Yeah. But yeah, also that's the other thing when it comes to like the whole funerals and everything, it's like, oh my God, I just can't believe how expensive things are. Like
Yeah.
it's like sometimes some people say it's a scam because it's just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
whoa, so that's so much like you're literally kind of exploiting people who are in a very vulnerable position of
Oh, yeah.
grief, and you will pay anything. Like when my granddad had to sort out like my nan's funeral. So my nan, she died when I was 17. Really hit me badly because she was like probably my very first real death of someone I was connected to. Even though there was other family relations that had died when I was younger, this one I had such a deep connection with her, and I swear she is the one that I got a lot of my horror interest from, because she would read Stephen King as her bedtime reading, things like that. And yeah, I remember when we had to sort out like the funeral and everything. And my granddad was a very, very brave person. He wouldn't really show like much emotion, but you could tell he was hurting. And then when it came to this little pamphlet, it was like, because my nan's cremated. So there was like this choice of like all the little urns and boxes and things. And the one that stuck out to me was like this white one. It had like little dolphins on it. And I just thought, oh, that's so nice. But I remember there was no prices on anything. So it's
Mhm.
like, how much is someone actually paying? In a way, that's
Yeah.
like just really weird and but borderline sneaky at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but there were like other options as well. But yeah, the whole I think the other reason why, like, I think it's because as I've gotten older as well, being surrounded more by death than weddings and stuff. Like, seriously, I think I've only been to about 3 weddings in my lifetime, whereas funerals, I'd say at least 10. Um,
Wow.
I think the worst one was it was someone's baby. That was
Oh.
horrible. Like tiny, tiny little white box. Uh, yeah, that was awful. But then I don't know what it is, but I also just like being there for other people as well. So like my boyfriend's grandmother, she passed away last year, uh, just before the whole like pandemic thing. In a
Yeah.
way, fortunately, because now there's like restrictions on how many people can go to funerals.
Right.
And it was like, technically, I didn't have to be there because I didn't really know her that much, but I wanted to be there as
Yeah.
well because I just like being that type of support person. It's like I also know someone else who recently lost, I think it was her father. And I said to her, oh, if you really want, I can come with you. Like, I'm really good at helping people, like when they're mourning and everything. And but unfortunately, like only so many people could go. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's like so many things. I'm also really into like the paranormal, like ghosts and spirits as well. So
Well,
like
we
for
will get
me,
into that.
yeah, I think that's where a lot of my other curiosity comes in. Like, is there an afterlife? If not, why are these spirits here? Like, because for me, I am personally pretty much an atheist. I don't believe in like there's a god or anything, but I do think we have a soul. it's like really weird. It's very complicated.
Oh,
It's
well,
like
of course it is.
it's like I do think we have like a soul or something, because I have I think it was like a documentary series to do with like the afterlife or something, and there are people who have like proven they've had like past lives,
Yeah,
because they've been born, they were like a child at like the age of 4 or 5, and they wanted to like dress up in like suits and fedoras and stuff. And then they're like talking about all these people, and then the parents have like researched it all, and it turns out like they were a guy back decades ago who got murdered, but somehow that soul has like moved to this child or something. And I just find that
yeah.
really fascinating. It's like, how?
I have an
How does that happen?
experience about that, and one day I'll probably share it on the show, but I absolutely believe in all of that because of what I've experienced. And it's astonishing because the person who is involved with this experience, um, I see her with these talents and ideas and concepts that shouldn't be in her head for her age, for
Mm.
where she is, for what her experiences are. She's always been like this big inside of her, this big, if that makes sense. Like um, she just has this knowledge that I know I didn't give her or she didn't get from her current surroundings. So it's kind of interesting.
Oh,
So
okay.
tell me how that incorporates into your work, your your ideas of the paranormal and um your experiences. First, give me an experience.
So I haven't had a personal spirit experience with ghosts or the paranormal, but I am a strong believer because of what some of my family members and what my boyfriend has said. So I remember my nan telling me that she had a friend. Um, God, they lived like really far away, and I think my mum was God, I think she was like 12 years old or something at the time, and she asked my nan's friend, could she use the bathroom? And she went to use the bathroom, of course. And then she went back downstairs, and I think she said she'd forgotten something. And as she turned around to go back upstairs, she said she saw like a grey lady walk from one wall to the other across the landing. And she completely freaked out.
Mm.
And basically I think it was like my nan and her friend were like, oh, what's the matter? And she's like, I swear I just saw like a ghost. It was like some hunched over old lady, and she's
Oh,
disappeared. And they basically said to her, oh, don't worry, that's fine, it's normal, she comes when it's a really nice sunny day that the atmosphere is happy, so if anything you're lucky to see her today. And like they spoke like as if it was a normal thing, like it was like pretty much like a daily occurrence, like especially like in the
wow.
summertime. Another weird thing, where I used to live many years ago with my mum, opposite the house, there's what we called the lines. So basically, it was like a very old railway track, but the track's not there anymore. It's literally just like a very long, long pavement. It goes through like pretty much all the way through the town. And my mum apparently woke up like the middle of the night. She just felt like looking out the window, and she said that she saw like a ghost train going
Wow.
across the thing. And I was actually quite annoyed because I was like, Mum, why didn't you wake me up? I would like to have seen that.
Yeah.
And she was like, it was just like, it all happened like so fast. Now, apparently, like
Wow.
our neighbor at the time, he was like, God, I think she was like 80 something. My mum spoke to her about it because she'd lived there pretty much her whole life. And she's like, yeah, it averagely comes about once every 2 years. And mum was like, why does it exist though? And she's like, well, because normally when there's something ghostly, that normally means something has had to have happened for it to be kept in limbo. And apparently it's possible that someone had a suicide. You don't
Oh.
see that happen, you just see apparently like the train that goes along. Um,
Oh.
and I think the neighbor said that she did like see the person there or something once, but that was like decades ago. My mum didn't
So
see
this whole
that.
train visual is possibly because someone committed suicide by jumping in front of the train?
If I trained, yeah, that's what it
Wow.
seems to be. Um, Another story, I again, this is all correlated with my mum. It's really weird. She's like seen a few things. She told me when she was a teenager again, from her old school. So it was called I think it was just Homer School, it was called because of the region of the area. And apparently my mum and her friends went to go over there because there was like an old bell tower, and basically they were like just goofing around with everything, and apparently there was ringing that was happening. The thing is though, there's no bell there anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, Homer Bell Tower has no bell, but there was ringing. So
Wow.
I don't even know how that even happens. Another thing, my boyfriend, he said he had like a really, really horrible like experience. He said it's pretty much like scarred him since because it was just terrifying. He swears he was followed by a ghost. It was like
Oh,
an old people's home, and I think it was when he said he was visiting his other grandmother at the time, and he just felt like heavy and like something wasn't right there, and he walked out of the room, and of course it's like, oh, like with old people's homes they look a bit like a hotel in a way because you've got the long corridors and stuff.
right.
And apparently he stepped out of the room, he said he felt cold, and he said there was like a man there in like old kind of like military type uniform, and he didn't think of it anything of it, but he noticed it was just like something not right. Like he was fuzzy, like what's the word? Transparent in a way.
Oh,
And he like kept running towards, like, I think it was like the elevator. And he just said every time he turned back, it was like just there. And he really,
wow.
really felt like as soon as he got to the elevator, he was like just pressing the button really, really quickly because he thought this thing was like following him. And he says it's like it was just like one of the scariest things ever. Um, what's annoying for him when it comes to like that story? People always go, "Oh, you must have been on something at the time. Were you
Uh,
drunk?" And he was like, "I was 8." So, like, I was a child. So, and why would anyone make this stuff up
yeah.
anyway? Like, it's, but no, for me, I haven't had any personal experiences. I know other people who have. There was one time that I did visit an old friend's house who, funny enough, has a tomb in their garden. I think it was like the previous owner of the house because it's like a grade 1 house.
Oh,
I went to
wow.
his sister's bedroom, and I tell you what, it felt really heavy in there. I felt so uncomfortable. And funny enough, I think like later on, like a couple of weeks later, they did say they have had a ghost in that house. But
Oh,
yeah, I did feel like really uncomfortable. As soon as I went into her room, like nowhere else, I felt okay, and everywhere else in the house. But then we went into like his sister's room, I was just like, why does everything feel a little bit darker in here? Why do I feel so heavy? Like it was like it's like almost stomach churning, and I
and
just didn't like.
you don't it sounds like you have some kind of a sense even if you're not seeing things.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
yeah, I've felt that way in certain places, like, I can't get my mood up, or I can't focus or be my usual self here for some reason. But as soon as you leave that place, you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm fine."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
And
what it
it's
felt
not
like
yeah. It's
as soon
kinda
as I
like you
left
have to
that room.
separate your feelings and wonder what's yours and what belongs to the place
Mm.
when you're in that kind of zone. So, what's your favorite piece that you've made so far?
Oh, that is a hard one.
I know.
Because I've got so many. I've only printed out so much. Um,
You print
hmm.
your own prints?
Yeah, yeah. So all the things I got here, these are
Mm.
like my prints that I have available.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I've got quite a few. It'll, and also they're like different types of paper. So like the postcard looking ones, they do have like the name of them at the back and everything. But yeah,
Oh,
hopefully
beautiful.
the camera will show how shiny it is. Um, One of my favorite, actually, on my website, which is just noufaux.com, so Noufaux. Yeah, actually, I'll explain to you about the name. Why
Yeah, please
Noufaux?
do. I completely understand it, but some people don't, so
Yeah, so because most times people are like, "Oh my god, how do I pronounce that? No fart arcs, like no fakes," and it's like, no, no, no. Think about it. So you got art nouveau. So it's like a play on words, but faux, which is the French word false, fake. Like normally, you normally hear it like what faux leather and faux
Yeah.
fur and stuff. So for me, it was like combining those words together. So I do art nouveau, but because it's not essentially the real stuff from 1890 to 1910, it's a false equivalent. So I came up as Noufaux instead. And that
And it's
literally just
very
came to
clever and
me.
I love it.
Thank you. And if anything, that is my pseudonym. So there are plenty of artists out there that do have it. So like Picasso is an example because his real name is insanely long. Like there's no
Hmm.
way that you're able to pronounce his whole name in one. And then you've got the Art Deco art, um, ERTE. And then you've got like a few other artists as well who use pseudonyms instead. Even authors use pseudonyms. Some people have even used like especially if you're a female artist, you'll find that a lot of us will use pseudonyms instead of their real name because
Hmm.
unfortunately when it does come to the arts, even making art, writing, I'm sure you yourself, you might have had experiences with sexism,
Yes.
because I have in some cases. As soon as they found out that I'm a woman and I have like a particular interest, all of a sudden there's like a negative derogatory that has come from somewhere and I have no idea why.
Hmm. And it
It
makes
happens
them
with
completely
authors.
change the narrative of
Yeah,
of what the concept might be,
yeah,
um, of how deep it might be, and suddenly it becomes, oh, it's just this pretty thing. Oh, it's just
yes,
pretty.
exactly. And I don't want to be
Um,
known as pretty things, like because even though my stuff is aesthetically pleasing, which is my
yes.
aim, and like for details and stuff, I don't want it to be known as like, oh yeah, that's just some pretty art that a girl has just made. And it's like, but if I was a guy, would your perception be different? Because it normally is
Oh
for
yeah,
a lot of
if you were a
people.
guy, it would be, wow,
Oh, that's so
look at
cool.
the digital strategy. Look at the blending of these layers. Oh, look at the,
Yeah,
the
compliments
quality
all
of their
round.
of skill, and it's completely different. I really get it. So when I was doing my work, they tried to do some critiques where it was a blind critique and you didn't know who the artist was.
Yeah.
But what's the point of being an artist if nobody knows it's your work? And then so people would see the aesthetic and they knew it was mine. So that didn't really work. And
Mm.
it would be like, I would do something death and creepy, and I would get critiques like, oh, how could a mother do something like that?
Ah,
How could a
yeah.
mother design something like this? Don't you think about your children? If I was a man, you wouldn't be asking me that.
No, exactly.
And
Yeah.
you would just be sitting in the fact that there's work here to look at. Um, yeah, I I got you.
Uh, no, that it is a way of like it's a way of like testing as well because when I did my degree, my final major project was it ended up being a bit like a feminist type piece. So it started off with Sigmund Freud with dream work, and then it went into the boundaries of like taboo, sexism, menstruation as well because that's still like a taboo even though it's 2021 and it's very natural.
Hmm.
Nearly every woman has it. And then basically, um, I thought I'd like go around that. And I don't know, it was just a really weird experience and everything. And then that's when I learned about the whole like pseudonym type thing. So, like, for example, like authors, apparently a lot of authors are advised just to use their initials and their surname. So then
Hmm.
they get more sales that way. But within my research of my final major project, the percentages of how many women are qualified or have a qualification within the arts, whether that be fashion, dance, acting, artistry itself, it's something about in between 70 to 80% that they have like a first class degree qualification or
Hmm.
higher, like master's or PhD. However, majority of careers, or leading based careers, and curators, they're all men. And it's
Hmm.
like, why has that happened? So it's like loads of fashion names, majority are men. Same with dance, even in cosmetics as well. Like I even work in a cosmetics company as well, and four of the inventors were guys. A lot of the inventors
Yeah.
are still heavily based on men, but then there's that assumption where it's for women only, and it's like, well, no, it can be for everybody. But it is very interesting because I've read so many stories about other artists, like how many hurdles a woman has had to go through to get where they are, whereas a man essentially has had it a bit easier. Like they haven't had to prove themselves. There's also the notion that women aren't taken as seriously. Like for
Hmm.
me, I honestly get so annoyed if people don't take me seriously. Like when I say I like something, I like it, okay? I
Yeah.
don't need a string of freaking questions to say, "Oh, have you heard this? Have you watched that?" Da 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 da. Like, for me, I am a big fan of heavy metal music, and as soon as I mention that, they're like, "Oh, what's your five favorite bands? Who have you seen?" Da da da. But yet, if a guy says that, they're like, "Oh,
Prove it.
cool. I like heavy metal as well." Da da da. It's like, why is it we're continually questioned on what we do? And it's a bit
Yeah.
like that with art as well. And it's been interesting because with my Instagram, I have actually just started to show myself a bit more, but I would purposely hide myself. And you'd be amazed how many messages I'd get like, "Oh, your work's cool, dude," and "man," and
Mm.
and I've even had, I think it was like even some reshares where they would put my pronouns as he and him. And I was like, that's very interesting how a lot of people think I'm a guy because
Yeah.
probably the genre of stuff I do, because classic horror, and especially Universal Monsters, is heavily male dominated. Like the amount of artists um, who are men that do a lot of like paintings, digital art. Like there's so many. Like a good example, really, because there's something called the Rondo Hatton Awards. Um, Fingers crossed. I hope I'm going to win Fan
Yeah.
Artist of the Year.
Fingers crossed.
Um, yeah, because it's all based on votes and stuff, and it's until the 25th of April people can vote.
We'll have to
And
put a link in the show notes for you.
yeah, so it's all based on emails, that, and then basically I could get like, they call it the Oscars of classic horror because there's best magazine, best article, film, Blu-ray, you name it, Monster Kid of the Year, stuff like that.
Wow.
But when it comes to the best artist and best fan artist of the year, I was looking through all the previous years of runners up and winners. So best artist of the year for the last, I think it's like 13, 14 years, all been men who have won it.
Wow.
Majority of runners up have been men as well. Um, Fan artist of the year, which has been around, I think, about 10 or 11 years, has only been won once by a woman, and that was in
Wow.
2011. So it's been 10 years since that category has been by women. I was a runner up last time, but it was all guys around me as well. I don't know. I think it's really interesting how um, certain topics have always been decided that it's men only, but yet women should
Yeah.
can like it too. Like I know
You
plenty.
can like it, but you have to prove
Yeah, you have to
your
prove
with
like who you are in some
trivia
way.
how
Yeah,
much you like it.
but I know so many women who genuinely love Bela Lugosi. Like reading about him, most of his fan mail were from women from the ages of like 17 to 40 plus,
Hmm.
uh, possibly because he is just so goddamn attractive and
Yes.
like the voice and everything. Um, but
He was
a
probably
lot
the
of the,
sexiest thing on screen back then.
oh god,
And
yeah.
yeah, he was definitely up there.
And and I do like, oh god, I can't remember her name. Like she's a horror host and she's really into Lugosi as well. But anyone I know who's a woman who's into Lugosi and I see that they have talent, they don't progress their talent with it. Whereas I see a lot of art and writing done by men within classic horror. It's like, I don't know, I feel like there should just be like some encouragement or something for more women to just go for it, because
For
that's what
sure.
I'm trying to do in a way. Like I want to prove that if you love classic horror and you want to show your passion, you freaking can. Um, just because it is heavily male dominated, it shouldn't put anyone off, really. Like, if you're a fan of something, go for it.
Yes.
Just want to
See, and
clarify, I'm not dissing all the guys out
no, no, nobody's dissing the guys. We love the
there.
guys. Everybody, we've got some amazing male artists and everybody. The but you bring up really great points, because when I started, I used to have an Instagram called Nouveau Swank, and it was kind of like decorating and finding antiques and recreating antiques. And then I kind of was like, I have to stop doing that because I got to focus on this, right? And so this auditorium comes about because I want like an all-inclusive way of showcasing artists, but I want to showcase the artists who kind of always get overlooked, the creepy
Yeah,
guys, the oddities,
the weirdos
the
normally.
weirdos.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, like, I started the Instagram way before I started interviewing people, and I was just kind of trying to build it and get some um build a little foundation before I started. And I did not post one picture of myself. I never said I was a female. I never talked about my family. I never said,
Yes.
it was like, and then I started to feel like that's bull that I have to, that I feel that way.
Yeah, you feel
And
like, why do I have to be secretive? People do love mystery though. So people do
yeah,
like that aspect.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And so I never had anything about myself on there. There were a few people who followed me because they knew me from other places, so they knew who I was. But for the most part, nobody's ever saw me. And it was probably on Halloween, I think, Halloween of 2020, that I
Mhm.
finally went live and showed myself. And I was like so nervous about it.
Mhm.
And then,
It's so nerve-wracking.
yeah. And you know what else I get besides, oh, you're a girl? Oh, you're so normal.
Oh.
Like you're too normal to be doing this. This can't be right.
What? What does that even mean?
I
What?
don't know.
We're not allowed to like weird things? Hold on. Basically, it's the assumption, isn't it? It's like the whole, like for me, when I said earlier about like goth aesthetic and stuff like that,
Mhm.
like there is the assumption like if you're into gothic things, therefore you need to be walking around looking black and white all the time.
Yeah, I should be
And
wearing a corset and some,
yeah,
like,
frilly like
a
lace
ton of
stuff
makeup, of
and
course.
yeah.
Yeah, that's there's always something. When I was in photography school, there was that also. Um, everyone was really, they had this way about them. They had this like style, and I just kind of went in my gym clothes and I was like back to work and back and forth. And
Yeah, you need to be comfortable because, like, when I was doing my degree, I was working too, and there was no way in hell. Like, I have to admit, I think the first month or two, I did wear like a couple of like my nice pair of shoes and everything, and like some of the clothing. But then after a while, with all the stress and all the work you're doing, you just want to be comfortable. And I did. I just started walking
yeah,
in like my pajamas, like,
yeah, I'm like, I'm in here, I'm going to be in the dark room for 8 hours straight.
yeah,
I don't need to come in here wearing heels and red lipstick. I'm good,
yeah. Like you're in a freaking
So,
dark room. No one's gonna see you.
yeah, yeah. You're literally in the dark room, but what if somebody's cute in the lab? I don't know. Anyway, so this is going to be a fun question to hear your answer to.
Okay.
If you could choose one horror character of all time to make art with, who would you choose and what would you make?
Well, Dracula. Because I am just a bit of like a Dracula obsessive, really. Like my first horror piece of art, Dracula, the thing behind me, Dracula. I've even
Mhm.
done a Dracula mini. Um,
You said
I
Dracula mini?
yeah, yeah. So the big one I showed you earlier,
Oh,
that's like
okay.
my main Dracula piece. But then I got my monster mini version with the curly. Ah, there we go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so if you're wondering as well, the flowers, they do represent something in every piece.
Oh,
So with Dracula, of course, I use black roses because that's just like a staple with Dracula, resolption of death and things. I've put tulips in there because this is Bela Lugosi, he's Hungarian, and the tulip is the national flower of Hungary.
oh,
So that's why tulip is in here. And like similar things with like Creature of the Black Lagoon or underwater aquatic type flowers, things like that.
nice. I
And
love
I
detail like that. I love it when there's like a little piece of info like that.
and it's like with Talbot, which of course is known as the Wolfman. These flowers, you have got wolfsbane in there, and other flowers like these ones at the bottom. They are part of known as, I think it's called the Moonlight family of flowers.
Mm,
So yeah, because people have asked me before, they're like, "Oh, horror characters, why have they got flowers and stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, that's because the flowers do represent a lot of things. So flowers normally represent life, death, change, which is what a part of life is. You normally see them with weddings, funerals. You know, we always have flowers when it comes to funerals. These are essentially dead people. So, you know,
right.
it's like kind of like a celebration, mourning type thing. But even with this one, the monster, you've got the red cornflower, which is Germany's national flower. And of course, Frankenstein's based in Germany. And then you've got like the daisies on that one as well, because you know there's that scene where he's with the little girl and he has a daisy. So
Hmm.
it's like every single piece has that reason of why there's different types of flowers in there. But yeah, in regards to your question, uh, I have thought about new Dracula pieces. So people want like a Christopher Lee type version of a Hammer horror. I probably will do like one with Frank Langella as well. I might even, because I have done Mark of the Vampire, a piece like that as well. Even though that's not essentially Dracula, but it's still Bela Lugosi. And then, of course, you got Return of the Vampire in 1943. I'd probably make a piece around that as well because it is basically a sequel of Dracula, but due to copyright reasons, they couldn't use the name, so that's why he's called Armand Tesla instead.
Hmm.
And it's still Lugosi based also. But one thing I would like to do, like when it comes to the day I have like a lot of space, I would like to print like a design off like on canvas. And I would just like to try and like paint it here and there, make it into like a multimedia type piece or something, or stick stuff
Yes.
to it and maybe like some gemstones or pour some, oh, what is it called? It's clear, like acrylic. Yeah, like if I pour like some plain acrylic with like some shine, like glitter or something. So
Yeah.
then it was like be like a solid piece and like make it
Like
shine a different way.
resin or
Yeah, that's the word, resin. Yeah, resin.
yeah, I work with resin a lot and it's magical. It's pretty cool the things that you can do with it. You have to be careful though.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some of the videos and I'm like, because I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to make my own like resin type frames because then you could like put stuff in them and like dead flowers and whatnot. But I just don't have the space. I have no garage. I don't really have a shed. Where I live is actually just a two up, two down, and I have a cat as well. So I'd imagine all those toxic fumes, everything would not be a good idea if I
Yeah.
tried to experiment in the front room. Like I said, I don't even have an office where I do my work. I just sit on a sofa with the laptop on my lap, and then that's how I do it. Like, because people are always asking me, they're like, "Oh, where's your workspace? I would love to see your workspace." I'm like, I don't have one.
It's the corner of my couch.
It's the corner, yeah, of where I sit, and that's it. Like, I can't even hang anything either because I've been doing this for nearly 4 years now. And for what it looked like when it started to now, it's actually quite a big jump. Like, when it first started, I can see how flat and 2D everything is now. Whereas now,
Hmm.
you can see like a lot of the 3D. I love embossment. Like I love adding embossment to a lot of things. It just makes things pop or like make it more 3D,
Yes.
like in shadows and things like that. Whereas my old work, it just doesn't look like that. Like I look at my old work, I feel like, oh my god, I want to upgrade that. But embossment, like it just makes things more gothic. I'm trying to make an example of what I mean. The only problem is I don't trust this camera on my laptop.
Yeah,
Oh
because it
yeah,
almost brings in an element of architecture
uh,
Oh,
like that. So I don't know. It's like things in the like stuff in the background here. It's like
yes,
embossed. Whereas if that wasn't there, you wouldn't see all the white and dark shadows within that.
right. And
So
it
yeah,
separates the background from the flowers,
yeah.
and yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah. I do.
Very
The reason
cool.
why the reason why Vincent Price exists is because of people requesting. They're like, "You should do a Vincent Price piece." So I'm like, "Okay." Well, this is like that was like my young Vincent Price because that's him in Dragonwyck in 1946. Funny enough, a very gothic movie, uh, and borderline quite disturbing as well when it comes towards the end. But he's so attractive in that movie as well at the same time. And I've said to them, like, oh, because you guys like the young Vincent Price, I'll probably do like him when he's a bit older, like from, I don't know, House on Haunted Hill, or even up to when he's in Edward Scissorhands, you know, when he's like the
Oh
inventor.
yeah, I mean when he's older, he just has that distinguished quality, and
Yeah,
that takes me back to my childhood because I mean, I only knew him older. I didn't start to see his younger days until I got older and wanted to research everybody and
yeah.
kind of see what else has been out there. And yeah, him with a little bit of gray is my favorite.
It's like he looks adorable. Like you want to give him a cuddle.
Yeah, and
It
Edward
sounds like old iconic
Scissorhands.
voice.
Oh,
But funny enough, I have actually made an Edward Scissorhands piece. It is on my website, on my Instagram.
no sense.
Like for me, all I ever wanted to do was just share my artwork, just share like common passion of like film, a classic film, other classic art and stuff like that. Whereas when you see a lot of posts on Facebook, especially around like a lot of hate, sexism, homophobia, racism, how are those still up? Why? And
Right.
then for me, it felt like that I just had like this really weird bot attached to my IP address because every time I put something out, it would just be instantly.
Yeah,
But yeah,
maybe you were hacked or something. I
I
feel
don't
like
know. It's
I
weird.
I posted a an ad, which I never do, but I finally said, okay, here's $8 or something to
Yeah.
to get this flyer out there to try to get artists' attention. And all of a sudden, I'm in halfway Facebook jail because they won't let me boost anything. They won't let me post an ad. And I'm like, well, tell me why. And they never respond.
No, no, they that's the thing. They don't even tell you why. And funny enough, you saying about my artwork with like the backside, I did purposely censor those. So on my Instagram and my old Facebook, I put like a little heart on the bum and it would say, if you want to see it uncensored, just go to my website. Just in case. Even though I've seen some of the most raunchiest or some of the most gruesome artwork on Facebook and it's been fine the entire time. But I thought, oh, because mine is essentially collage and a photo, I thought I'd better be careful.
Facebook thinks that I really need a new bra or some like Spanx or something. So I'm getting a ton of like practically naked girls putting on a bra or putting on stuff. And I'm like, how does
Hi.
that not get flagged? But
Yeah.
but I mean, not that it offends me. I don't care. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just like, you
exactly.
guys pay attention, like
It's like, what are you doing?
yeah.
Another one was making your work a lot more popular than it really is. I have no idea what that meant because I'm like,
Wow.
I was in a few Facebook art groups and basically I would just like share my work in them. And but it wasn't frequent. Like there were plenty of members in these large Facebook groups that would post literally every single day, several times a week, and they were always up. Apparently, if you like share too much, apparently that can be a problem. But I know I wasn't sharing that often, and I
Wow.
think there was like something else that didn't even really make any sense to me. But then, yeah, because they deleted me, that means I lost my access to my Facebook group and my Facebook page. And basically, I've had to start all over again. Quite a quite a bit of a throw out of the window because I was really upset about it. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I was actually crushed because
Oh
I
yeah,
have
that's
no memories
frustrating.
now. And I'm like, hold on, I basically took a good year because I've been on furlough most of the time because of COVID. I thought I'd take that as my advantage to try and build a community, build some fans, maybe customers as well. And when they did that, I was like, fuck's sake. I was so angry. I was
Yeah.
so upset. And I basically I gave it like a few days and I was like trying to reconnect with other people. And then I basically made a new page called Noufaux's Attic. So basically I
Cool.
can still share my artwork, but I'm also sharing a lot of the things that I used to when I had a group running. So I would do things like Art Nouveau Monday, Art Deco Tuesday, you have Weird Vintage Wednesday. Today is Pre-Code Thursday. Tomorrow will be Femme Fatale Friday. Then you have Golden Age Saturday, and then you have Silent Film Sunday. So then it
Oh,
like attracts a load of other types of people who may be into those different things as well. And basically, it's a case of I'm just trying to rebuild what I lost as quick as I can.
yeah. Well, that sounds, I mean, every theme is awesome. So, I mean, even I want to check that out. But okay, well, since we're on that topic, tell everybody every single place they can find you. We'll put it in the show notes also. And
Yeah, cool. Yes. So my main website is just noufaux.com. It basically has all of my artwork under collections, even the very old stuff, even my final major project as well. Um, and Vintage Kinks is basically the uncensored versions of like the kink stuff I've done. And then you got Vintage Kisses, which is the romantic kind of like postcard looking stuff. And then you got like classic monsters. I have just started Tim Burton, but there's only one piece on there. I am due to make a Beetlejuice piece because people have been asking for that. Um, and then also on the website, of course, you've got the shop, so you can buy prints. I am based in the UK, but most of my customer base has been from America. I always open to ship worldwide because
nice.
I understand that classic horror, Universal Monsters is primarily an American thing. It's very celebrated over there, whereas the UK, it's like, nah. Like that's the
Oh yeah,
reason
we've
why I
got
make this
expos
stuff.
and
Yeah, like we don't really have like horror cons or anything here. That's another reason why I make this stuff because there just isn't much of it here. So I like to think I'm providing a service as such. Like if you want some classic horror prints and stuff in the UK, I'm here. But yeah, the shipping for anyone who is outside the UK, it's just £12 and it's all tracked as well. So nothing gets lost. You can keep an eye on where it is. Every single order I've had so far has never been lost. And the furthest customer I've had was in Australia. I've had a couple of customers from there. And then recently I've had like Alabama, California, Kentucky, Massachusetts. Um, and basically, that £12 shipping could either be for one print or even up to 10 prints. So
very
the
cool.
ship is just not going to cost you anymore. You do get every order a free exclusive print, which is basically the background of me.
Cool, cool.
Um, is like my way of saying thank you and stuff. But if you spend £35 or more, you get a free holographic horror sticker.
Oh,
It's really shiny. Like there's basically this is the color version, and then you got like the sepia tone version, but it's all rainbow.
love it.
That yeah, they're
Are
quite big
those
and they're
the moon
waterproof.
phases in the back?
Um, honestly, it's just like an Art Nouveau design. I just like randomly came up with like just circles. But yeah,
Okay.
you and then it's basically all the monster minis I did, and I like grouped together the big eight. But yeah, you can buy these as well. They're like £3 each. But yeah, and that's the other thing. In regards to the pricing of my prints, they start off as £5, like stuff like this, which is what I like to call my Noufaux quotes. Um, but saying that, with like the monster minis, like they're all on textured paper. They are 20 each. However, the Jekyll and Hyde, they're 35. With the quotes, you can get them in like a bundle of three. The vintage kisses and the vintage kinks, you can get them as a set as well, which you can save money. The first Dracula print, that one, the reason
Yeah.
why I've like got it in like this plasticky stuff is because they are limited edition of 30 only, and they're numbered, and they are
Oh,
printed on this art pearl paper. And basically, yeah, like I also have signed them, I have numbered them, and they also get an embossment in the corner as well. And they're 45, like that's the highest my print has gone. But like all the others, like all the descriptions of what papers they're on, because that's the thing, different papers equate to how much a print is.
definitely.
But I'll always be bringing out something new. But yeah, I do have Instagram, it's just Noufaux. If you like the idea of my Facebook page, it's just Noufaux's Attic. The reason why it's called Noufaux's Attic, because when I ran the group, someone in that group was like, I love this group. It's like you've just climbed into an attic and you just never know what you're going to find. So that's where the name came from. There's like a big description on the Facebook page itself. I do have a Twitter, which is called art_Noufaux. I do tend to post there here and there, but I find Twitter just, I don't know, the thing about it is like the algorithms are just really bad. It's like I'll post something and then they're like no reactions whatsoever. But I am on Twitter if people do have Twitter and they want to follow me on there. I did try TikTok, don't like it. So I've pretty much deleted that because it was just
I've
awful.
opened
But
it so many times and I can't figure it out. I feel like 100
it's
years
like the
old.
worst app. It's like the worst app ever. It's just so like we have a shop called TK Maxx, but I think in America it's called TJ Maxx, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's like that big jumble sale type clothing store.
Yeah.
That's what TikTok reminds me of. TikTok is the TJ Maxx of apps because it's just all random and messy and you can't find anything.
Yeah.
But if you do, it's a miracle, basically. um, yeah, Twitter, Facebook page. Yeah, but I am mostly on my Instagram. Like I'm pretty much on there literally every day. I talk to so many people. I've been doing a few Instagram lives now, like reading basically the new book Becoming Dracula, which is all on Lugosi before he became Dracula in the film. And I will do like Noufaux quotes. I'm always on my story, always like sharing stuff as well. Like I'm very engaging and interactive on there. And I've done a few giveaways in the past for celebrating how many followers I've had or something, or I've collaborated with other artists also. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
that's where you can find me.
Well, I'm so appreciative of your time and the fact that you were willing to jump on with me because I know that this is like a small project that you've never heard about. And, I don't have any kind of, what do they call it right now? Like Instagram clout or whatever the heck they're calling it. And I just appreciate that you're willing to share on a platform that isn't well known yet. And I think that says a
Very
lot
welcome.
about your creativity and open mindedness. And those are the kind of artists I want to share with people.
That's cool. Yeah, I have been involved in a couple of magazines. Like they aren't large magazines. Like one is called We Belong Dead. It is a magazine. It's been going on for a while, but it's UK based and they do ship internationally. There was another magazine I was featured in recently called Sinister, which I hadn't heard of before. They approached me and they were like, "Oh, I really like your work. Would you like to be part of our new magazine?" Like, I think it's like issue 4. They've just released it, and that's an American-based magazine. And the way it works, because they are so new, I think the way they print is due on how many sales they get, like how many people will buy it, and
Oh,
then they'll like print it and stuff. Which in a way is a good idea because that kind of like saves energy and paper and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, Also, what other magazine was that? Oh yeah, I've been involved with a group of artists called Studio 23. That is curated by someone called Georgie, and basically that is something that's like every month, and this is like so brand new. So I was in issue 2 and I was the cover of that, and I've been involved with the next issue coming, and basically it's the thing of like just trying to grow that as well. So I'm always open to pretty much like anything big, of course, because that does get the most amount of exposure, but I'm all about like the small and upcoming things, because we all start from small and you never know what that's going to be like in the future. So like
Right.
for me personally, I have about, on my Instagram it's like 2,300 followers now, and I know some people who pretty much started that just a year ago and they're already over at 10,000, and I'm like, damn it, why am I not there yet? Somehow, yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? Who knows what the magic is? But my goal is to keep featuring artists and give them a place to talk about their work and why they work on their work and what it means, and hopefully some creepy stories leading up to it. And
Ghosts in graveyards.
yeah, so I have a little bit of history in curating, and I think, like we talked about earlier, there needs to be more women in that arena. And not that I'm only going to showcase women, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to, the big goal is to create an exhibit based on the podcast, curated with only oddities and curiosities and horror genre artists. So you're part of that right now. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been fun actually. Like, this is my first real interview as an artist as well, so it's quite interesting. Um, I had no idea how it was going to go, or because sometimes I can really just choose. I feel like I can chew someone's ear off sometimes. Like once I start talking, I don't shut up. Which is really weird because I have social anxiety as well. So it's
Oh,
like I go outside and I'm like, I don't really want to talk to anyone. But for some reason, when it comes to things like this or any of like my Instagram lives recently, I won't shut up.
yeah.
So I appreciate you, dealing with all of my ramblings, is what I like to say.
Well, your ramblings is exactly what we need. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.